It's hard to get a plastic straw these days. Now they're usually all paper. I used to be able to do this. Haven't tried in a while because you usually get a paper straw, but you get a good snap out of this sucker. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, the Yankees trade deadline was an actual dud, which kind of expected that, and I kind of mentioned that in previous episodes, but we'll kind of go over the kind of non-moves that Cashman made. Bought a couple of pitches that really no one cares about, but nevertheless, let's kind of give an opinion on why they went in the direction they did, and kind of, where does the team go from here with this pretty much the same roster as before the trade deadline. And of course, some of the other moves made around Major League Baseball. A couple of big names got shipped out, mainly from across town with the Mets. So we'll get into all that cool stuff, but before we do, make sure, as I reminded you before, there's an audio podcast version of the show. So I know you like to see me, but you can hear me a lot more often. So wherever you get your favorite podcast, look for Section 420 Talkin Yankees. Follow, subscribe, something like that, and whatever. One of those buttons that says like that, or follow, like, blah 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 blah, should hit all of them just to cover your bases. Like running around the bases, cover your bases, hit all that, and get notified when new episodes come up. And if you're watching this right now on YouTube, same thing. Hit subscribe and also get notified as soon as a new video goes up. So looking at this trade deadline, just entering, you figure, okay, where do the Yankees need help? And kind of I pointed out the 4 spots that you would, if the Yankees would make a move, you would see a move, because that's just, at least that would be necessary for them. The guy would be left field, third base, catcher, because we're having Trevino, obviously he's done for the rest of the season, and I figured he might bring in a bullpen arm, and that's kind of pretty much, I figured that if the Yankees would make a move, it'd be one of those 4 positions, and it turned out to only be one of the 4 positions, because bullpen arm, bringing in 2 arms. So welcome to the New York Yankees. You have Kenyon Middleton from the Chicago White Sox in the trade for a minor leaguer, and Spencer Howard from the Texas Rangers was traded for cash consideration. So I guess Cashman just kind of pulled out of the wallet and took out a 20. So hey, so now you look at this move, it's like it's a nothing of a move. I mean, Kenyon Middleton, okay, he's an arm, he's in there, but not the great. I mean, his ERA is a little under 4 right now, so it's not like someone that's just, throwing great for the White Sox. Oh, we got to bring this guy in here. It's just an extra arm to throw in the mix there. And again, I pretty much that's what I expected Cashman to do. That I didn't see any big moves coming around. We knew, of course, they took Ohtani off the board, and I don't think the Yankees were going to do something big like get Juan Soto. So nothing like that was going to happen. I didn't expect that. You might have had a shot at something like a Cody Bellinger. Okay, that might have been a play a little bit, but that's about as big as it was going to get. But this was, even more underwhelming than I thought it would be. If I figured maybe at least bring another catcher, just with the fact that right now the Yankees are rolling with Higgy and Rovette, which is okay. I maybe want to give it a shot. I'm not totally against Rovette. Just like throw him out there, maybe twice a week to see what he got. It's not terrible, but I figured at least he'd bring in a more of an established catcher to pair off with Higgy. But nevertheless, just brought these 2 relievers here, and again, not much to expect from them. And with Spencer Howard, they immediately optioned him down to the minors there. So you may see him at some point in September, but it's a guy like you may never see him at all. It's just one of his moves. It's like a nothing move just to make. Why did he make it? I don't know. But anyway, of the 2 though, the more relevant will be Middleton now. He will be a free agent after the season's over. So again, like, why are you trading for this guy and you have to get rid of him anyway? He adds to the bullpen a little bit. There's another arm out there. Again, maybe some of these guys get fatigued a little bit, like Michael King. He's getting been batted around a little bit. We've seen even Tommy, Canley, even though he got off to a great start when he came back, but he's even get knocked around a little bit. So maybe some of these guys getting fatigued a little bit, so he just wants to bring another arm there to freshen things up. Okay, it's an okay move. Again, it's low risk, low reward type of move. And again, with Howard, you may not even see the guy. So those are your 2 New York Yankees. And with Howard, I guess the only plus with him that he's under contract. He's not going to be a free agent until 27. So the Yankees at least have him under control for a couple of seasons. But we don't know if he's going to be any good right now. I mean, his ERA is around 10, but you don't put too much into that right now. I mean, he hasn't played that much as it is. Now you say, like, why would Cashman go after these guys? Well, you see GMs. Again, they spot other players, and that's Cashman maybe not the greatest in the scouting department. Overall, he's a good GM for the most part. He makes a move there, but I think Cashman's greatest attribute is finding good talent from other teams. Finding someone like a Clay Holmes that's on the Pittsburgh Pirates and bringing him here and getting making him to a quality reliever, or spotting someone like a Luke Voigt, buried somewhere in St. Louis, and you bring him in here for a couple of seasons, and hey, 2020 was the home run leader, even though it was a short season. So I think Cashman has a good eye of spotting, talent from other teams' rosters. That's probably his best attribute, more than developing homegrown talent, which has been the Yankees' biggest problem. But nevertheless, those 2 will be here, and it could have been at some point. You see GMs do this a lot. He might have wanted drafted one of those guys a couple of seasons ago and just didn't fall through. But you do see GMs, even if they don't get the draft guy initially onto the team, if they could get them later on via trade, they like to do that. So we don't know really the backstory of why Cashman had his eye on these players. But nevertheless, they'll be here. Now, if you look like, well, why didn't they go after Cody Bellinger? Well, problem with the Yankees is that the Cubs actually got a little bit hot, thankful to the Yankees, because Cubs came into Yankee Stadium, took 2 out of 3. So at the point of the trade deadline, the Cubs were only 5 games out of the NL Central. So, they got a little hot for a while. They went on a streak there, and they probably figured, all right, well, let's go for it. So they decided to keep Bellinger, whereas maybe if the Cubs fell out about 10, 12 games out of the NL Central, maybe they'd have been more willing to give him up. But I guess nevertheless, they were going to go for it. So that's why Bellinger was off the table. And other than that, I just don't know where else the Yankees were going to go. I mean, they could have bring in like a middle type of outfield to bring it in there, but you kind of have a bunch of guys ready there in the mix. I mean, obviously, you have Oswaldo Cabrera, who's up and down a lot. You have Billy McKinney, you have Jake Bauer. So you kind of have a bunch of guys out there. So if you're going to bring in someone who's not significantly better than those guys, then really what's the point? So I just don't know what move is out there for the Yankees to make. So, they're kind of just standing pat here and figure, all right, you know what? This is that team. We got Aaron Judge back, and I'll kind of review that a little bit after this episode. Got Rondon rolling a little bit, even though he really hasn't been that great, since he's finally been able to start the season. And of course, now around the corner, you have Nestor Cortez rehabbing, coming back soon to the team. So, that's almost like getting, almost making a move at the trade deadline because he's been gone for a couple of months, as well as Jonathan Loaiza finally looks like he's soon to come back, and that's another arm you could add to the bullpen there. So I guess Cashman's justification was, look, we're getting a couple of pieces back as it is. We have Aaron Judge back, so this is pretty much going to be the squad. So we're going to go moving forward with this group and just hope they can finally get into one of those wild card spots. I mean, it's at a point now, the Yankees about 10 games out of first place, so you almost have to give up the AL East. Is it semi-possible for them to make a run in these last 2 months? Maybe, but I'd have to give that like maybe a 10% chance if that. At this point, if you're the Yankees, you got to focus more on that wild card there, win as many games as possible. And I think they just do that. Figure, look, this is a winning roster. Yes, it has underperformed, but we didn't have Judge for 50+ games. Now he'll be back. Probably just for just the fact he'll be back, they should be a little better. And then if you get, hey, we got Nestor Cortez coming back, we have Jonathan Loaiza coming back to add to the bullpen, and let's at some point this team has to get a little better. I mean, there's never been a point in the season where they say, wow, the Yankees are hot. So it just leaves it happen. It has to happen at some point. If you remember, go back to 2022, they started off the year great, and they were like 40 games over 500. Like, wow, this might be one of the greatest baseball teams of all time. They might break the single season record. Then, of course, the second half, we all know, it was just such a disaster. And then finally, they kind of limped to the playoffs. So there is a point where they could get hot. So maybe they could get hot towards the end of the season and just use that again into the wild card. And I guess that's what Cashman's thinking. For keeping the players he had, didn't really ship anybody out, but again, didn't really add anybody, and figured we'll just get guys off the IL, and that'll be our team moving forward. Now, one of my more recent audio podcast episodes, which is why you should be a subscriber, I titled it "The Right to Improve," and this has always been Brian Cashman's philosophy when it comes towards the trade deadline. Is like, has this team earned the right for me to vastly improve it? And if you look at this Yankee team right now, you got almost to say no. I mean, if you just look where they're standing right now, they're a handful of games over 500, great, but they're in the bottom of the AL East. Now, a lot of it has to do with the AL East this season is very tough. I mean, if the Yankees right now were in the AL Central, they'd probably be in first place. So this goes to show you how tough the AL East is. But nevertheless, the facts are the facts, and the Yankees, they're in the basement. And when you look almost, back in first place by double digits there, you almost have to give up the fact that you're going to get the division. And yes, you do have a shot for the wild card, but you're not at a point where you're playing so well that it motivates the owner and the GM to want to go out. Let's bring up 1-2 big names here. We could really do something special this season. I mean, you got to look at this Yankee team right now, and even with Judge back, it's still kind of like the way they're playing. Again, only a handful of games over 500. So, I mean, is there anything there that would really make you see, wow, this team's really a championship team? If we could just add that one piece, that one big piece, we'll be right there. I mean, the Yankees need like 3 or 4 different big pieces to be added for this team to be, a championship team. And you also got to subtract a couple of big names, which you can't really do because you have some people that are under contract for a long-term number of years still to go there. So I think this Cashman's in a bit of a tough spot there where, again, I just don't, I don't blame him for not making any big moves there because, again, you're not going to bring in a big name, give it prospects for a team that still might not even make the playoffs there, so it might not make a difference. So now if the Yankees were hanging there maybe first or second place, or even maybe in third place, but only behind by like 3 or 4 games, okay, that gives you the motivation to make a big move. But But if you're down there that far in the basement and you got a team that's kind of lackluster in the offense, this is really pitiful. There's really no motivation for you to want to bring in a big name. And again, if you do, you need like 3 or 4 big names because again, no one really on the team is hitting that well. I mean, still even with the new batting coach Sean Casey there, you see little tweaks of some guys' batting stance there, but overall the results is kind of still the same. And the Yankees, blowing a lot of, wasting a lot of good starting pitching efforts like that, and only putting like 1 or 2 runs, like someone gets a solo home run, and that's like all the offense for the game there. So not much motivation for Cashman to make a move like that. Now, I don't think the Yankees are totally giving up on the season. I don't think, and I didn't think there would be sellers. The last time they did that was back in 2016. That was kind of when the Yankees transitioned from a lot of the veterans to the baby bombers. Maybe, of course, that's when they kind of told Teixeira just to shut it down because he had the hurt neck issue. They basically paid A-Rod to just stay home, go home. We don't want you anymore. That's what the first time they traded off Roldis Chapman to the Cubs, which got Gleyber Torres. They also traded off Carlos Beltran. They got rid of Ivan Nova. That's where they stripped down the team. I didn't think they'd do that in 2023, and they didn't do that. But I do take that, at least in their minds, they think they have a shot for the season because there were some pieces the Yankees could have moved. And again, they could have moved it and still, kind of try to sell it as, oh, no, we're still going for it, but we're getting rid of these 4 or 5 players. I mean, there were players that were tradable for the Yankees, and they didn't move any of them. So, at least in my mind, I think the Yankees still believe they have the shot. At least Cashman was able to convince Hal, let's do anything, don't tear it down. We'll just add a couple of names, I'll make a few moves. We're getting some players back, and we'll go from there. Because, again, there were tradable players. Who was that? You would say Gleyber Torres. I mean, he's someone that, he has a reason. He's under arbitration for next year. He's probably going to cost the team about, 10 to 12 million maybe. But, again, for a second baseman, for the stats he puts up, that is quite reasonable. I think someone would be interested in Gleyber Torres, but no, they didn't move him. Harrison Bader was out there. He's going to be a free agent after this season. He's someone would want to add, even though, he got bombarded there in his last start against Baltimore. Severino's someone that might, pique interest. Again, he's, making relatively little money of, being like a 10 million on that option he has right now. Again, he's been struggling a little bit, but he does have some postseason experience. His velocity good. He's just been getting clocked around. But again, a team may be interested in him as a 3rd or 4th starter there to add. But, that's someone the Yankees didn't let go. Someone might have been interested in Herman. The Yankees kept to him, as well as Clark Schmidt. That's someone also, he's been pitching much better lately for the Yankees. He's someone who could be a long reliever. He could come out of the bullpen. He could be a spot start. But no, the Yankees held on to him. And even look at the bullpen. I mean, I'm sure a lot of teams might have been interested in Waldy Peralta, a lefty. I mean, who doesn't want a lefty at a bullpen? But Yankees held on to him, as well as Clay Holmes. So the Yankees had about 5, 6 tradable pieces, but the Yankees kept on all of them. So that at least tells me, at least internally, the Yankees believe they still have a shot at this, and that's why they kept them all. Otherwise, you'd have seen a move or two. Them trying to sell them off, but still try to sell to the fans. Oh no, we're still going for it. Still go for it. So if you want to take any solace as a Yankee fan, at least you look internally. They still believe they have a shot. Now, I saw a lot of Yankee fans were all like, just tear the whole thing down, fire Cashman, fire Boone, trade this player, trade that player. Why didn't the Yankees do that? I just don't think, a number of reasons. I think, again, I give them they have a good 50% chance of getting into the wild card, maybe a little less, maybe about 40, 45% chance. So, I think that's really the reason why. But also, just look at overall the franchise. A lot of things going around where you just can't really sell everyone off. I mean, not only is baseball a sport, but also it's a business for the Yankees. And, a couple things going on. You just committed first $360 million to Aaron Judge to start the season, as well as another $160 million to Carlos Rendon. So, you're going to shell out all that money to those players. It's like you're talking about almost like $500 million, and then just kind of shut it down, a couple of months later. No, you're not going to do that. And, of course, also thinking business-wise, you have this whole advertisement now with Star Insurance. You think that they want to put the patch on the Yankee uniform for this team to just mail it in for the rest of the season? No, of course not. And plus, you go to other advertisers as well. Look at advertising money coming in. Well, the team just shuts it down, says they were giving up for the season. The Yankees lose a lot of that revenue. And also just look at the young guys you have up there. Okay, let's just say you get rid of everybody and you play Peraza, you play Volpe, maybe you bring up Austin Wells or something like that. Well, look at the results. Are they any good? Look at Oswaldo Cabrera. He's barely a 200 hitter. Volpe, I know he's got his home runs, and I don't think he's part of the problem. Again, he's going to take his lumps, he'll get better, but he's just hitting like a shade over 200 himself. And even Peraza, has he blown you away, really? He's gotten a couple of options. I know the Yankees kind of send him up and down a little bit, so not totally his fault, but he's not like, cranking home runs left and right, like, oh my God, we got to keep this guy here. So, there's not really impressive about the young guys that you really want to see him much. Whereas you go back to 2016, I mean, when they brought up Gary Sanchez when he came on the scene, he was good. At least Judge struggled a little bit, in 2016, but when Judge came in 2017, he hit a 50-plus home run season. I mean, at least that justified wanting to bring those guys. This group of baby bombers we have now, I mean, is anybody that really blows you away you want to see? Probably not. And so there's really, it's not like the Yankee veterans are holding any of these guys back from doing well because they've getting opportunities, but none of them really overly impressing you. And plus, another problem business-wise, you're still locked into deals where you're paying someone like DJ LeMahieu. You're still paying Giancarlo Stanton, who's the two of them are struggling, and you can't really, you would like to make a move, but no one's going to take those contracts. So even if Cashman brings a few guys in, you still have players like DJ LeMahieu who's struggling around 230, or Stanton could barely, keep his batting average around 200 there. So it's just too many things going on. So you committed to money with Judge, you committed to money with Rodon, you committed to money to Stanton, you committed money to DJ, you got advertising revenue coming in. So there's a lot of business here. We just can't say, well, you know what, just throw the season away. We'll get some prospects in. We'll try to get in the offseason. Can't really do that at the New York Yankees when, again, you got about a 40-45% chance, to make the wild card there. So you kind of have to focus everything to go in that direction. And there's no guarantee that if you make a move, it's going to drastically improve the team. In fact, it might even blow up in your face. And you only have to go back to as far as last year with Cashman. Now, that was a much better Yankee team that was more promising. Again, they were right there on top of the AL East pretty much the entire way, even though they almost choked it at the end there. But that's the situation where you saw Cashman more aggressive. Of course, again, the team was in first place. There was more of a motivation to improve the team, but it ended up blowing up in Cashman's face. And we could just go back over, go to the replay on that one. Of course, you start with, Benintendi comes in here for a couple of weeks, and then he has that weird wrist injury with the Hamate ligament. He's done for the season. So that blew up in Cashman's face. And of course, you had the dud of a trade with the Oakland A's, bringing in Frankie Montas as well as Lou Trevino. Montas, comes in here, struggles. Turns out you have to shut him down for the rest of the season. And at the beginning of this season, needs his shoulder scoped, and he's pretty much done for the year. You maybe see him late August, September, but no one's gonna die to see him back. And of course, Lou Trevino, the reliever, also added that deal. He pitched in for the entire season, but at the start of this season, they had to shut him down. And he eventually needed Tommy John surgery. And to add to the list, of course, Scott Efros, who they got from the Cubs, also needing Tommy John surgery. So he brought these 4 players in last season, and all of them at some point needed surgery and really didn't contribute to the team at all. So even if Cashman did bring in 1 or 2 big name pieces and stuff like that, it doesn't guarantee success. And just lately, because Cashman has had a lot of bad luck with that. And if you want to go back to 2021, of course, he brought into the 2 lefties. Rizzo, okay, that worked out, you would say. But of course, Gallo turned out to be a dud, where just got to a point where last year you had to ship him out of town because he just couldn't hit anymore. Now, just before Judge, went through the wall in that game against the Dodgers, look at the Yankee team at that point. They were surging a little bit. They were only about 4 or 5 games out of first place there. You finally had Stanton and Donaldson back, and of course they came back in the first game and hit a couple home runs. Now, you knew of the two of them. You figured Donaldson would phase out, and eventually didn't get hurt, and he wouldn't be there. The whole idea is getting both Judge and Stanton in the lineup together at the same time. It meant Stanton's of course been here since 2018, but the amount of games of him and both Judge played together are very minute, very minuscule. You had these 2 big sluggers in there, and this is with the vision for the Yankees, and they've never come to fruition. When Stanton hurt, Judge isn't. When Judge hurt, Stanton isn't. You can never get the 2 of them in the same lineup. So I just think the goal for the Yankees overall, they're looking at the offense, figure, all right, let's look at Judge in there, let's get Stanton there. Let's just go back to that, that series against the Dodgers where that Yankee team was surging a little bit. That's kind of when Jake Bauers came on the scene there, and they took 2 out of 3 against Los Angeles there, and they were kind of, even though you didn't have Judge for that final game there, but a thrilling Sunday night win for the Yankees there, and you kind of felt good about the team, and of course, right after that, you got the news about Judge's toe, and then from there, the Yankees, the season kind of nosedived for the next 50 games there for the Yankees. But I think the Yankees are looking at more on the positive end as like, okay, we finally got that team. We finally got Stanton in there. They seem to have been very careful with Stanton. I mean, if you see him brief times in the field or running the bases, I think they almost tell him, don't bust it. I mean, you don't see him running hard at all, so I don't know if he's hurt or he's just not running hard because he doesn't want to tweak anything. But nevertheless, you just got those 2 guys in there, and you just hopefully something clicks in with this offense finally. So I know I've been a lot of negativity and doom and gloom. So I'll try to bring some happiness to the episode. And of course, the happiness would be the return of Aaron Judge, as we saw during that Baltimore series there. I guess he got the okay from the doctors. Now I guess they gave him word that he can't further injure the toe, so he can't heal it right now in season, but he can't further injure that torn ligament in the toe there. So that kind of gave him the green light to go ahead. And again, the Yankees were able to put him out there. And I was actually kind of surprised, in that opening weekend, he actually played some outfield. I figured he'd just be a DH exclusively, at least for the first couple of weeks. But Boone had no problem putting him out there. Again, no bad feedback from it, no further injury. So I guess this is going to be able to tough it out there. I don't know if he's wearing like a special toe brace or something like that. But it was kind of vintage Aaron Judge you saw in the first game. I mean, got 3 walks, and that's the reason Judge was good last season. That he did take his walks. He was very disciplined at the plate. Now he got away from that towards the end of the season. That's because he was chasing number 61 and 62. But when Aaron Judge is good, he's laying off the bad pitches, taking his walks, and is hoping the guys behind him to do something. And of course, in the second game, getting right out back on the horse with a mammoth 442-foot home run to center field there at Camden Yards. So good part for the Yankees that he's back, but the pieces around them are still struggling. I just think him in there is going to make them bet a little bit over the long haul, but you're still not seeing the instant results. And it's just kind of puzzling with some of these guys. Let's go down the list again. It's the 4 I've always been poking at. The first one, of course, Anthony Rizzo, who just clearly has not been the same player since that collision at first base there with Fernando Tatis Jr. I mean, he's only had like 1 home run since returning, since that incident. He was out for a little bit, but he's only had 1 home run, but he's been struggling at the plate. I think he's just still hurt because he got off to a good start of the season. Again, he was the Yankees' best hitter, batting average wise, was close to 300. Again, the new rules now where you can't do the shift, and again, Rizzo was a beneficiary of that. But since that collision there at first base in that San Diego series, he's just not been the same player. I got to think he's probably hurt. And then if you look at the other 2, the main cogs, they're DJ as well as Stanton. First, get to DJ. Now, I was on a podcast recently with the Bronx Muchachos. They had a former major league there joining us, and he said, again, this is a former major leaguer, so he can see things that we can't see. He just says that DJ's foot is bothering him. He can see the way he swings on the back foot there. So this injury from last year, the foot injury that DJ elected not to get the surgery, might have turned out to be a bad idea because he's still struggling, and he's brought that into 2023. Again, he got off to a decent start of the season, but it's almost like the season before and the season before that, where you just see him slowly wearing down and just getting worse and worse. And again, maybe this new off season, don't be shocked where he does finally have surgery on fix the foot injury because clearly something's wrong with the guy. He's only like 33, 34 years old. It's not like he should have declined this quickly, so it has to be something. Same thing happened to Jose Trevino just a week or 2 ago. Turns out he tried to play the whole season with a hurt wrist, but he just got to a point where he couldn't deal with the pain anymore. Finally had surgery, had to shut him down for the season. Probably you've seen the same with DJ. He's probably trying to gut it out there. But again, just the results, he should not be hitting 230 there. That's quite a decline. And if you go to Giancarlo Stanton, who I just mentioned before, just a couple of minutes ago, this is the way he's running around. Something's wrong with this guy because he's only batting like 198. Okay, I understand he's not going to be a 300 hitter, but he should at least be hitting 240, 250. And if he's hitting home runs and doing that, then fine, you'll take it all. But the fact the guy barely could get to 200, that is something's wrong with the guy. Now, when he does crush a home run, it still looks like vintage Stanton if he gets into one. But again, overall, though, the quality of play, really not, he's just an automatic, basically ground out pretty much at this point, or strikeout. So I'd probably DJ and Stan. Don't be shocked that after the season, at least with DJ, you probably going to have to announce that you have some sort of procedure, get some sort of surgery done, because it's just not normal. Even Stan, he's only 33 years old. He should not be this bad. So something's probably wrong physically, but they're trying to gut it out, maybe with the money they're playing, all the, just the pressure with that. Now, my take on it that if they're not able to perform the way they should just go up to Boone and say, look, I can't play. I'm hurt, sit me out. Because then if they're not taking up a roster spot, then see, that would give Cashman at least motivation, or at least influence him to make a move to bring someone here who's healthy and could put up some stats. But by okay, I know you want to be the hero and play hurt like that, but you're actually hurting the organization because you in there hitting 230 is hurting. Where if you're sitting, sit down, sit home, heal your foot, bring in someone who can actually play and be competent, that helps the team there. So kind of weird what's going on there. And then last but not least, Gleyber Torres, who you can't knock the guy. He puts up stats, so hey, you can't say he's a bum. But he's kind of a soft player. When does he ever hit like a big 2-run home run in the 8th or 9th inning to tie a game like that, or big walk-off hit, thing like that? Those days were back, 2018, 2019, fine. But it's been a long while for Gleyber Torres, and yeah, he puts up his stats, but it's the softest stats ever. The Yankees could be up 5-2. He'll hit a solo home run and increase the Yankees' lead to 6-2. And you look at the back of the baseball card, hey, great, wow, he has 16 home runs. He's having a good season. But it's soft. He's not really stepping up, being a sort of a player that the team could get on his back and he could carry them. He's just not doing that for the Yankees. So those are the foursome. So it's great that Judge is back, but if those other pieces aren't doing what they're doing, then I don't know where this team is going. And you can't look at these other guys that Cashman brought in, whether it's Bowers, McKinney, even an ICAF or Higgy. Again, those are nice little pieces there, but if you're putting out a lineup and like those are your bottom 4 there, for the most part, they could get into one once in a while, but they're almost all automatic outs there, and that's just why this Yankee offense has been struggling to score runs. But you really can't blame those bottom guys. It has to be the top 4 guys to produce, and they're just not producing for the Yankees. Now, one of the pieces that's back for the Yankees, Carlos Rendon, their pitching, and had the delayed start of the season. Hasn't been a good, I guess, debut for the, his Yankee ship, you'd say then. Again, had that ugly incident out in Los Angeles where he blew kisses to the fans that were booing him. He explained that as his way of throwing out his frustration. But stats-wise, again, first couple games for the Yankees hasn't been that great. But you have to cut him a little bit slack. I mean, again, he's not like the other players. I mean, he's technically like this is now almost like his post-spring training period. Again, he didn't have a normal season, had a delayed start to the season. So, this is his mentality and his physical abilities right now with the pitches usually around May when they're kind of struggling a little bit. They're trying to find the grip, trying to find the release point, all that good stuff. So I would cut Carlos Rendon a little bit of a slack. And again, I just don't think it's good to be booing the guy. I mean, someone you brought in here, you need him to be good. You need him to be in a good place mentally, physically. I know he's a major league player, but hey, look, these guys have feelings too. He probably deserved a little bit out in Los Angeles there, but nevertheless, I just, it's not a situation where he becomes like the next Joey Gallo every start and just booing him for all the starts, because that's going to do no good. If this team has any shot there, you need Cole, who's, again, he's probably one of the bright spots for the Yankees and probably on his way for an American League Cy Young award. But number 2 of their backing up, you need Carlos Rendon doing his thing, being the guy that the Yankees thought they would get when they brought him in here. So if you got Cole and Rendon rolling good, pitching at a high level, that at least gives the Yankees a shot to do something if they could get into the playoffs there. So, because if you just got, if you got 1 or 2 starters that are hot, I mean, you could take that all the way. We've seen that in the past. If you look back a couple of seasons ago when the Washington Nationals with Scherzer there, he's got a couple of pitchers, him and Strasburg, going in hot, that could make a world of difference. I mean, now if the Yankees have a couple more arms, if you get Severino turned around now with Nestor Cortez around the corner, even the more better. But if you look at Severino, Nestor Cortez, and Rendon, the 3 of them, Rendon at least has the ability to go in there with this high 90s fastball and just really be a beast and shut a team down for 7 or 8 innings. I mean, he has that ability. So I just think if he gets right himself and fans not boo him and he kind of gets in a good place, if him and Cole could get rolling there, that could be the Yankees' ticket to surprising everyone and maybe turn this whole thing around. So the Yankees kind of sent the message that they're not giving up on the season, but they're not really going for it. But so let's look around the major what teams are going for it. Well, clearly the Texas Rangers getting Scherzer from the Mets, as well as adding Montgomery from the Cardinals there. And if you want to look at the Angels too, since they announced that they were going to keep Ohtani, made a number of moves to bolster their team up there. So those are teams that are clearly going for it, as well as, of course, Houston also grabbing the other Mets starter, Verlander there, and timing them up right just to, as about, close to face the Yankees, not to say they do it on purpose, but nevertheless, those are teams that are definitely going for it. Now, the Yankees didn't send a message that they're going for it, but they're also saying a message that they're not quitting yet. So, I didn't want to leave this episode without mentioning this game. Of course, I know you saw during the Tampa series, Yankees scratch Domingo Germán for Johnny Brito. Now, they mentioned that, Germán had some lumps on his under his armpit there, and maybe that's from bad deodorant. Now, I had a similar issue as well. I think back in college, I remember that. So, yeah, it is a real thing. But the most bizarre thing ever, they scratch him from the start. They bring up Johnny Brito, have him start. He gets pummeled, gets knocked out of there at the 4th inning. And then all of a sudden you look at it and you see Germán warming up. I've never seen this before in baseball. I have no idea. It is unspeakable, unfathomable. I don't know what's going on with that whole situation. But if you're Germán, I don't know, just switch to Old Spice or something. So that's the episode. As a company thought, nothing major for the Yankees around the trade deadline. Make a couple of non-moves, bring in a couple of pitches that you don't really care about. But the good news is that I think the Yankees, at least in their mind, they still think they got a shot. They're going for it. They didn't trade off any of the big pieces. I mean, again, they could have traded off Bader or Gleyber like that. So I guess you just want to take that stock as a Yankee fan. At least the organization thinks they have a shot. Otherwise, they would at least traded them to get anything. They could have gotten like a single A player. They got nothing. So they're holding on the team. And I guess they figure with Judge back, keep the stand pack, and at some point, maybe we could turn this thing around and break through and got a shot at the wild card.